Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Jeff West?
Yes.
Steve Russell?
Yes.
Lee Trahan?
Yes.
Jerry Query?
Yes.
Ben Twitchell?
Yes.
And Ray Karen?
Yes, here. Recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you all rise, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2020? Second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? None opposed? Communications, boards and committee appointments. The Agricultural Commission, Steve Russell is for the Agricultural Commission.
I'm good with that.
I think that there's no anybody else who's on it right now. I mean, who's
So moved.
So moved. Second. All those in favor. Steve, you want to say anything?
No, that's okay. No, that's fine.
You've been on it forever.
Since it started, yeah.
One of the things is the great work that the Agricultural Commission is doing, and you read about it in some of the news and for the future too. I think that's a very important commission for the preservation of farmland, and Steve was instrumental in forming that committee and getting that done, and kudos to Steve for that, that's for sure. KV Cog, Jerry Kieran and another appointed counselor.
I nominate Lee. Hey, you said you want to be on some committees, there you go.
KV Cogley, would you want to?
Just be the alternate.
Where do they meet?
The day after a council meeting. Once a month.
9:30 in the morning?
Yep.
But, you know, as a backup, you don't feel responsible if you can't make it.
Well, if they have regular meetings at 9:30 in the morning, that's not feasible for me whatsoever.
Okay.
Where do they usually have it then, the meetings?
The day after council, like tomorrow, get it at 9:30.
Where?
At KB Cog on College Ave.
College
You
Avenue,
don't think
okay.
that building's accessible?
So,
Do you usually go to those, Jerry?
No, he's gonna start tomorrow.
yeah, we need
Oh,
somebody
you
else.
haven't been on them before?
I've been on it. I've been to meetings there. So, still was the alternate.
Oh, you were the alternate, okay.
So now I'm gonna be, I'm gonna end up being the
Yeah, okay.
primary.
See, as soon as I got elected to this chair, they slid me into it behind Mr. Manson. I've been there ever since.
Yeah, and you don't want to continue, right, Ben? You don't want to continue?
This time.
I mean, I don't mind being alternate, but time could be an issue or accessibility could be an issue.
Well, that's it too,
Yeah.
you know.
Because you were an alternate,
I was an alternate at one time.
6 months or something.
I
Yeah,
mean, if you
yeah.
want to appoint me an alternate, so be it, but I'll do what I can.
I don't mind doing it either if you feel.
There's two. There's the KV Cog and there's the loan committee.
Resolving loan committee, that's what I was on as well, and he's gonna take that over for me too.
Well, this is for the KV Cog that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
but it's all part of
They're
it.
That's all part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a subcommittee.
Okay, so why don't we go for now, Jerry Kirian, we'll vote on Jerry Kirian and Lee Trahan as the alternate right now.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we try that and see if we can work out,
Yeah.
see.
As I say, Lee, if you can't make, don't worry about it, don't even call.
Yeah.
You know, just,
Okay.
Yeah.
no, if there's a problem with Jerry going a certain month, he may give you a call and say, can you go on my plate?
Okay. And it should give me a little bit of time to research.
Yep, research it, and if there's any problem, if somebody can't go, just give me a call and I'll be glad to represent the council.
And you get a free
Even though I'm
meal
not
once a
member,
year.
but I'll be glad to go.
So Jeff made the motion, is there a
Yep.
second?
I'll second that.
Steve, second. All those in favor of electing Jerry Kirian and Lee Trahan, raise your hand. Well, unanimous.
Who said it was unanimous? Yeah.
Report of committees and commission, town manager's report, Michael?
Okay. Yep, the only thing I had, unless there's any questions about anything that's in the report, David Barrett from MMA is available to meet with the council February 18th or 19th. So if we could pick a date and a time, then I can schedule that and let him know.
I'm not available the 19th at all.
Okay, so the 18th?
Probably the 18th would be better. We have a budget meeting that night, right?
Yes, so we'd have to make it during the day.
I have anything during the day that day, no?
Any particular time that's best?
Actually,
I
the
can't be there, I'm gonna be
17th,
in,
Right, you're gonna be
yeah, 17th be fine.
It's a holiday.
17th.
18th is fine.
So the 18th, do you have a particular,
18th, I mean.
have a particular time? Folks, want me to pick a time?
I currently have a meeting, I think at 1:30, 2 o'clock, so before or after.
Okay.
The
How about 10 o'clock in the morning?
That's fine.
Does that work for everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll do 10.
18th, 10 o'clock.
Yep,
Or would that give you enough time?
Well, let's have my fingers crossed.
About 10:30?
10:30 would be a little better.
oh, okay, yeah, 10:30 is fine, it works for me. It's good.
yeah, you're on the way out anyway, so
He says it works for him, but
oh, okay.
All right, that's all
We
I have.
decided 10:30, is that right?
Yes, 10:30 on the 18th, February
Any
18th.
news on the junior high, I know, and
Nothing.
nothing new other than in your report?
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
That,
nothing new.
that meeting would be here in the chambers?
Yes,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
it'd be almost like a workshop.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did just want to put in a plug for Fort Halifax Days, which is scheduled June 20th from noon to 4. So we just had folks put that in their calendar. It should be another good event.
Yeah. And I noticed in your report, Mike, the sale of the industrial building, we'll be doing an action on that later in the meeting, so.
But now I through the chair, the junior high building update. There's still no meeting scheduled for the junior high committee.
Not yet, no,
All right, now that 50-50 don't look the greatest to me.
right.
In other words, if it was 80-20, I'd say, hey, we're in good shape, but
Yeah,
Well, it's still better than 0% chance at least.
I know, but are we gonna have to look at,
Is 50/50 the odds currently?
yeah, it is.
it's,
Well, we're gonna have to look at budget-wise for this next year, the possibility of that $700,000 to tear it down.
right.
I
Are we
wouldn't
gonna
worry
have
about
to?
it this fiscal year. I think we could buttonhole it for one winter and do it the following year, if that's the case. Give it time to.
I don't know if you'd ever drain that whole thing. It's
Yeah, I'm gonna meet with Shelley about that. I'm
Okay.
hoping that when we get into the budget process, I'll have more information about winterizing that building and what
what it
potential costs may
yeah,
be.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, because right now, it's not on anybody's radar, I think, as far as the budget goes. And Shelley, we just got done at the school board meeting, and that was a question that was raised as to, come September 1st, there's gonna be some transition, so it's just not gonna, September 1st,
Right.
we're gonna stop using the building, there's gonna be a transition.
oh no, I realize that.
And when we get into the winter season, if there's any potential buyers, do we keep the oil, or do we keep it at least heated for a portion of the time, and then who's responsible for that? So
Yeah.
I think Peter and Mike will get together and then inform the council as the budget season goes.
Good.
We also mentioned at that meeting that, we'll have further information about the junior high building by probably the end of the budget cycle.
That's true.
And that we'll be able to make that decision,
Thank you.
or still keep it into the process.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you.
have to have discussions on that, that's for sure.
We either have to heat it or put in a portable antifreeze system. That's expensive. Heating would be 50 degrees, and we'd have to make arrangements for somebody to go around the building every so often.
Yeah, we'll work through that when we get through the
Yeah.
budget. We'll have, like Ray said, we should hopefully have a better sense from KV Cap on whether they can do anything with the building.
But in the meantime, obviously, we can look into the cost of winterizing and what that would entail, so that we'll be prepared for whatever scenario comes in. Lee?
Yeah, I believe Shelley has some kind of monitoring system, doesn't she, for any mishaps during off hours? Is that something that maybe?
Yeah,
If the furnace goes out, she does.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, is that something that we can, as a council, can monitor through Public Works or something, if, at the time, while we're trying to figure out what's going on?
if if it gets to the point where they shut the building down and nobody's in it, hopefully by then we'll have a plan.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna keep it for a winter, if Shelley's already got a monitoring system in place, we could just ask her to alert us if, the furnace fails or if there's an issue.
You still need to go in and check the building
Right,
physically.
yeah,
Thank you.
Because things could break down at one end and not know about it.
right.
And then show up a month later or two, and gee, we got a block of ice.
Yep.
All set? Moving on to department reports.
Thank you, Rick.
Can I see a motion to approve?
Move to accept our
All
reports.
reports.
Second.
Motion to approve all department reports. Raise your hand. Opposed? Old business? Order number 1-2020, providing for the designation of municipal development and tax increment financing district, ITAC project, and adoption of related developmental programs. Discussion?
Yep. Second it.
Yep. Any discussion? Again, just for anybody watching, that was the standard waterproofing for their business that's on Route 201. And that'll be great for expansion and helping them out on 201. That would be a roll call, right?
It is Jeff West,
Yes.
Steve Russell.
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
Yes.
Jerry. Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
And Ray Karen.
Yes. Order number 2-220, providing for the authorization for the town manager to sign the attached exclusive right to sell listing agreement with Caldwell Banker Ford Real Estate.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion?
I will point out one thing, in the agreement, actually would be on the first page, it's got the list price at 2.5 million, and we'll actually be asking 2.6. That would be the only change.
And the terms of the sale, when I was reading through it, would be that the existing tenant, Orion Rope, would be able to stay to the end of their lease.
Correct.
Which is about approximately 2 more years.
Right, 2020.
2020, so.
Yeah.
So. Any further discussion?
Okay. I'm working. Oh, right here. So it's 2.5, right? And
2.6. He just said that it changed.
that change?
Yeah.
All right. I want to make sure, because I was thinking of that.
So when you do the, with Caldwell, then they're gonna do all the advertising and everything, and then, any potential clients will come through you, Mike, through the town, and through, Don
Yes.
in the town, so. And then the final approval obviously goes to council to approve that as the final.
So we still gotta take that, say, walkway out
Later.
between both buildings.
Yes,
Not now.
no,
No.
no.
Let's go, Johnny's buys the rest.
Behind that.
Motion and discussion? All set? All set?
Ready for roll call?
Roll call?
Jeff West.
Yes.
Steve Russell.
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
Yes.
Jerry Querian.
Yeah.
Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
And Ray Karen.
Yes. Now, this is a portion for anybody that's interested in public comment.
No,
This is
one
the
more.
time.
No, we got one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more, Resolution 7-220, providing for the authorization for the town manager to sign attached agreement and mutual release with C.H. Stevenson's and Company.
So moved.
Second, open discussion?
That's the one that basically it's on Clinton Avenue
Correct.
that will end dealings with Stevenson.
Will it solve all the problems? We took care of it and then you're gonna pay us, is that right?
So we're gonna keep 36,000
Did that cover it?
of their money. No, there's still about another 47,000 roughly. And I'm in conversations with Boyd Snowden, the engineer, for them to kick in about half of that.
So in the end, it ended up, to fix it, costing us around between $20,000 and $25,000 of additional money to repair the Clinton Avenue project. And the Clinton Avenue project, for people that are watching, that was, if you go on Clinton Avenue during the grading was, for a variety of reasons, not done to the best, and it's ponding in certain areas that are pretty unacceptable for the most part. So to fix that is going to cost us a little bit of money.
I do have some of my constituents complaining about that.
Yeah.
And tell them that it's gonna get fixed.
Yeah.
And they say, when? It's not this winter, it'll be next late spring, early summer.
Motion, no roll call?
No roll call.
Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Unanimous. Now it's the public comment section.
Hi, my name is Bruce Flaherty, and I'm from Augusta. I'm very much involved with the Spirit of America Volunteer Recognition Program. Now, Mainers do great things to help others, including the youth who raised $275 from hot chocolate sales to buy needy children Christmas gifts, and the police officer who saved the lives of 2 youths as their home was engulfed in flames. However, and sadly, people like this often do not get the public recognition that they deserve from their local officials or from anyone else. Now, Spirit of America Foundation is a 501c3 public charity established in Augusta to encourage volunteerism, and it allows the Spirit of America Foundation tribute to be presented in the name of any Maine municipality to honor a person, project, or group for commendable community service. Now, last year, over 200 Maine municipalities chose the Spirit of America winner. Municipalities typically honor recipients either at their annual town meeting or during April, which is National Volunteer Month, but they're welcome to do so at any other time of the year. Now, Maine Municipal Association and its current president, Christine Landis, and immediate past president, Mary Sabins, have been very supportive of this program. You may, in fact, see Spirit of America mentioned in Maine Municipal's January 2020 MMA This Month email newsletter and on its website at the recent announcements. Important point, there is no fee whatsoever to participate in the program, and there's lots of information on the website spiroaft.com/gems. Now, the deadline is June 30th, so your town council has all kinds of time to choose the local person, project, or group to receive the 2020 Winslow Spirit of America Foundation Award for outstanding community service using your own criteria. And you're welcome to choose one to whom your annual town report is dedicated. And now, this is a development in more recent years that every year now, Kennebec County hosts a ceremony in the fall honoring our county's Spirit of America winners. So you should expect that Winslow's 2020 winner will be honored at this year's Kennebec County event. Winners managers have been chosen in the past for Winslow. It's really, the way it really should be done is the municipal governing body should be the one to select the recipients. So your town council is invited this year to be the ones to do that. Mike, you're a little familiar with the program from the past. Any questions, anyone, comments, anyone that comes to mind? Maybe.
Yeah, through the chair, I got a question. According to this, if by February 28th you tell us Winslow has picked a Spirit of America winner, we'll publicize your town as a pace setter. You mentioned June, but
Right.
this is February 28th.
Good point, good point. Okay,
I read it.
okay. The deadline, as I say, is June 30th. However, if you will, bonus publicity, if you would let us know by, and actually it's this year and we're in leap year, so actually it's by the end of February. That would be special publicity. Very good question.
Yeah.
And the handout that you have incidentally was, I'd sent an email to your town and got a photocopy, that distributed tonight. Sometimes it happens in towns. Emails can get directed accidentally to spam or something like that. So the thought was to actually put something in the minutes tonight.
And Winslow has participated in this in the past?
Right, yes. The school was involved, Winslow Family Festival was involved in selecting recipients. And I believe that it's very probable. Oh, I know at least sometimes in the past that your town officials have actually been the ones to present the award.
Yes.
So that would be a nice gesture as Chairman Ray, if you would be the one to actually present the award. That would be nice.
Yeah, I think what we would do at this point in time is maybe, get some type of nomination. Do you know how nominations have come in before? Does anybody have any suggestions as how to accept nominations? Go ahead, be my guest.
Okay, nominations, you're very welcome to make nominations, to submit, to invite public nominations. One thing that does work out typically that's good is that if the councilors, selectmen, whomever, actually be the ones to make the nominations. I have seen it happen sometimes in the past that, and everyone means well, but sometimes people either don't see the request for nomination. In other words, the best way to make sure to bring it to a successful conclusion would be actually for you to make
Keep
nominations.
it close. And most of the time it's from a nonprofit or volunteer type, not a paid employee.
There is some flexibility. Typically, you're right, it's typically a volunteer. But it can be a paid employee, and sometimes it can be a situation, that somebody might do all kinds of volunteer stuff. They're involved also in an organization. They might get a stipend or something to partially reimburse them for what they do. So rather than splitting hairs, we say it can be either paid or non-paid.
Yeah.
That's community service. That's
Yes.
it can be a person, project, or group.
Yeah. Does anybody have any further questions for Bruce? No? Thank you very much.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for the opportunity to speak.
I think we'll definitely have it on discussion, and I don't see any negative to it, that's for sure. That seems to be all positive, to recognize somebody in the community that has done a great things for us. And we have many in our community.
Beautiful. Sounds like for a number of years going forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Should Just an opportunity to say that we are starting the budget process as well. Ray, thank you for coming to the board meeting tonight to hear the deliberations. We've presented several cost centers this evening. On the February 24th meeting, we'll present several more cost centers, keeping the process going. It's a little more difficult this year, as Ray heard, in that we are literally tearing buildings apart. So when you got grade 6 moving over to the elementary school, you've got to factor in what that budget is, what's going to leave, what's going to go to that building. So you see a decrease in one building, an increase in the other. And so virtually that's being done with a lot of the programmings and everything else that we have to consider. So it takes a little more time. But we are working on that, and we're chugging ahead for you in order to try to meet the deadlines that we've established. I guess the other thing that I would mention is that there was obviously a terrible tragedy over the weekend in Lawrence. Today was a very difficult day for them, a difficult day for many in the state of Maine. When a tragedy like that occurs, it affects all of us. In Winslow, we helped support, we sent counselors over to help with that whole process. And from the information that I heard, they were dealing with it as best as they could under the circumstance. For those of you who are interested, we have a construction meeting this Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the Winslow High School conference room. And other things are going exceptionally well. I mean, it's winter. We've got a lot of things going on. Mr. Ferry's here, Mr. Selwood is here. He can probably give you an update on both of these gentlemen. I'll give you a great update on what's happening in the world of sports. We've got a lot of exciting things going on if they wanted to, but things are going well. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I might add is I went to a unified basketball game last week, and if you haven't been to a unified basketball game, I highly recommend that you get one in before the season's over. It's just the participation of all levels, and they played Maranacook that day, so it was a very, very interesting and extremely positive type of interaction with the students there. I also want to say that behind the scenes at the school right now is tremendous amount. You got the construction project going on. You got all the planning for the transition this fall into the K through 6 configuration. And then you have, of course, the 7 through 12 configuration, and all that work that's needed to be done. And also looking at the students right now and trying to get MEAs and trying to get curriculum, and there's extremely amount of challenging that the school department's facing at this particular time. And I think from the council, or just from myself really, I just want to thank everybody at the school level for what they're doing, and the challenges that are ahead are enormous. But I just want to thank you guys for all the work you're doing right now, and the upcoming year will be challenging at best, at very least, that's for sure. And thank you for all the work you're doing.
Well, when Peter says it took a little more time on the budget, he's really understating it.
Yeah.
Quite a lot,
Yeah.
so.
Yep. Anybody else, public comment? We'll close the public comment section of the meeting. Discussion items, graffiti. We've had a couple complaints, and Mike, anytime you want to, about graffiti on building, and that who's responsible for, it's obviously who's responsible for rectifying the graffiti on the buildings. On public building, it's really no problem, is that we would take care of public buildings and remove the graffiti. This particular instance is on Clinton Avenue, where the old convenience store was, and then now there's graffiti on the side of the building. We've made numerous attempts to contact the owner of the building to remove the graffiti. We have been unable at this time to get with the owner and to remove the graffiti at this point. So this complaint came in saying that who's responsible for actually removing, if failure comes that we haven't removed the graffiti, then who is responsible? Does the town have any recourse in removing that graffiti? Mike, is that pretty much explaining?
Yeah, it's been about a year. Graffiti's been there for about a year. We have no right to go, obviously, on personal property, on private property, and try to remove graffiti from somebody's structure. if a property owner wishes to allow the graffiti to remain, that's their prerogative. We have no legal right to tell them they can't have graffiti on their building, absent any ordinance. I did some research looking for graffiti ordinances, and I couldn't find any in Maine. So I think when you look at a person's freedom of speech, if I have a structure and I'm okay with having something painted on the side of it, that's my right. That's my freedom of speech, and there's nothing we can do really to change that. And I don't know in this case whether the property owner prefers to have it there, but we've made efforts to contact them and they just haven't removed it.
Now, which building is this, or what street? Clinton Ave?
And Grand Street, the intersection of Clinton Avenue and
Yep.
Grand Street.
North Grand.
North Grand.
The old early bird.
Okay, that double door, whatever it is,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It is now a garage.
Yeah, I don't go out that way that often, so.
Is that owned by the electrician still? Do you know that was an electrician?
I don't know if the person that owns it is the electrician or not.
So I thought it was, because they have the electrical trucks out there.
Yeah.
The only way to rectify the problem at this point would be for the council to develop an ordinance that says that, is there something that, when I did some research with it too, now the ordinance would be, there's a couple questions, a couple issues here, is that if there's graffiti and we contacted the owner but they refused to remove it, then you could say, well, this is in the big cities, it's not really here. Then there's a fine that you would levy on the business that says that they haven't removed the graffiti. And I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying that's part of the research. There's also a part of when you have some towns that say, with the owner, saying that they give permission for the public, for the city to remove the graffiti too. And I'm not even suggesting that we do that also. But there's two methods. You either fine them or you either help them remove the graffiti. Those are some of the two issues that are two solutions. And I'm not saying that that's what we should do, but that's in the bigger cities, that's what they do. Yep.
Is this, Ray, is this offensive graffiti to people in the area? Is that what has come to you?
It's actually, it's a figure it's a D, and so there was a rapper that was a Dr. Do or something about 15, 20 years ago. The graffiti's been on there a while, so it's a rapper. It's not like a vulgar word or anything.
Oh.
It took me a while to figure out who it was, actually, because my rapping days are long gone. But
It's just like the things they put
yeah,
on
Dr.
railroad cars.
But it's not that colorful or anything. But like Mike said, right now this is where we're at.
And there's no other place in the state that has an ordinance against graffiti.
Not that I could find. Now, keep in mind, for the cities, if it's a public safety issue, so in other words, if you have gangs,
Yeah.
right, and they're going into the neighbor's territory and tagging and,
Oh, yeah.
causing violence,
Yeah.
then you can, for public safety reasons, then you could step in
Yes.
and take action.
I understand.
But in our case, it doesn't rise to that level, I don't think, where it's a public safety.
Has there been any complaints on this?
Yes, there has been.
Oh, it has.
That's why we're having it as a discussion here. There's been somebody that's come in to talk to us about it.
Actually, in the long run, the graffiti itself is not really offensive. Somebody, and I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, has taken it like they'd like to have it painted, because I believe that graffiti came right after they had painted the building.
We have to put the doors in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know I wouldn't want to go in and take paint that building at the town's expense, it's not ours.
Until we get the okay of the,
Yeah, still, I wouldn't do it at the town, because then people would wanna have their buildings painted at the town expense. Just put a little graffiti on it and then come and paint my building. So Ray, what would you put in?
I wouldn't do, well, I'm just
Sorry, but
I'm just moderating this discussion here, you know what I mean? I wanna know what the other councilors would think that, you know, if we don't have in the town of Winslow a major graffiti problem. We're not dealing with these issues. We have some on the bridges and some places where people normally don't go that we never look at, or it's out of the sight. So it's not a major problem here with graffiti in the town of Winslow. In this particular one, although it's offensive, you know, what's offensive? I think that's the other classification, is what's offensive and what isn't offensive. And then, even if it is, what do you do about it? You know what I mean? And then, you know, and that's what we're having the
Somebody's not
discussion now. Like I said, there's, you either, you know, force the owner, you know, to fix it under some type of, and if he doesn't, then you have to, or,
I would just like to add, in my opinion, if it's not vulgar, I mean, offensive to be taken different ways to many different people, but if it's not vulgar or it's not, you know, offensive in a, you know, in a violent or, you know, racial type way, then I feel that it should just, you know, leave it the way it is.
I think in this particular instance where, what is it? You know what I mean? We're saying, what is it? If there are other instances in town that, you know, that could become serious, that you would not want somebody from your town looking at that and saying that, you know, we would get multiple complaints. I think a lot if it was a different situation than what we have here. And then that would be a different situation, but it never has arisen to the fact that, are we trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist at this time?
now, the town must know who owns the building,
Yes.
and you haven't been able to contact the owner?
No, we've sent them a letter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've sent them a letter and just asked if they would, you know, remove or have the graffiti removed.
Oh, okay. So something is in the works?
Well, this was almost a year ago we sent
Oh.
that. It's been that way for quite a while.
And they never did get back to you?
No. I mean, obviously, the owner knows it's there, right? It's their building, and they've just chosen not to remove it.
Maybe they had to put on?
I would think not.
Don't know.
Well, question I have is, would he just paint that section of the graffiti, or would he end up having to look at painting the whole building?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it from that perspective. In other words, what's the remedy? You know, if the property owner, if somebody did something to my property, then, and if I didn't like it, I would fix it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody
can see your house anyway.
I know in Waterville, there's multiple graffiti
There
through
is.
the town. I look at Harris Baking Company and some of those places there where they have graffiti that's been on there for 20-plus years.
Yeah.
So, you know what I
Lot
mean,
of it.
since it's closed, so it's still there. So I think communities struggle with that, but I think they struggle with freedom of speech and the right to have it, and then, you know, the interpretation of vulgar and then remedies.
Exactly, that's my concern. If it was something vulgar or,
Yeah, yeah.
like Lee said, I can't see getting into it too heavy.
So we can just, it's good to have the discussion,
Yeah.
and right now, there'll be no path forward. on this issue at this point.
I mean, if it comes
It
up
feels like
again,
we're okay with what we're doing right now.
I mean, if it comes up again and it gets to be an issue, I would say, yeah, we could address it again and do something about it.
Okay, okay. Good. All set?
Yep.
All set? Unless anybody has anything else from
Steve?
you guys? Steve?
Yeah, I was just wondering if any of you guys in your districts are getting calls from people about the conditions of the roads.
Yes.
What kind of, can it be a pothole?
Yeah, anything, not just potholes, having roads that haven't been paved in a long time, that need to be paved. Because I'm starting to get some.
I mean, I know, I just, you know, as an at-large person, I just got chairman, I just got a call from a resident on Russo Street with some severe issues that, saying it's been going on for years, and it came to my attention because of her impaired mobility. She's using a walker, wheelchair at times, and saying she's having difficulties getting out of her house or feeling like she has the freedom to come and go out of her house.
Is that more from her house to the sidewalk though, or is that the actual right-of-way that the town owns?
That I'm not.
Maybe a combination of the two.
It could be a combination.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally went on the road and saw that that particular road does have a lot of compacted ice and snow on the road itself. I'm not familiar with the road itself as far as what side of the road has sidewalks or whatnot, and I just told her that I would bring it up at tonight's meeting, and I told her I'd personally go see her tomorrow.
Yeah, I can talk with you afterwards, I'll get to maybe shed some light on some of this.
Okay.
I think both of us.
Yeah.
I needed to bring it up.
You know,
Yeah.
in my opinion, Steve, like I've been just going out to houses, about 120 in the Winslow area over the last, since January 1st, and probably 80% of the time, the topic of roads come up, of like, you know, what are you guys doing with the roads? How come you can't fix them? And the roads are deteriorating, and, you know.
Well, there's some of them you can't even go 30 miles an hour on some of the rural roads.
Yeah.
Because of the potholes.
Especially now with the frost.
Especially now, I understand this is a bad time of the year.
Yeah.
But even in the summertime, there's some roads that need to be done.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. What do we normally spend every year on road repair? 250,000 a year?
500,000.
We actually spend 500,000 a year.
This last year, we picked it up
Yeah.
for another 800,000. We put a lot more into it
But
this
like
last
this year, I think we're only doing 2 or 3 little places, like we're doing out here, right? To
Right.
the elementary school. We're doing the turning lane,
Right.
and then we're doing, I can't think of the name of the road out there. Behind
Bassett Road.
Bassett Road.
Yeah.
And that's all we're doing this year, right?
I believe that's what Paul has on the schedule.
Bassett Road's one of the worst roads in the town.
Well,
Second to maybe Morrill Road and
And how much are we spending on the turning lane of Winslow's money?
Winslow's money,
30,000, eh?
Yeah,
Because we got
it's
$300,000 grant.
right,
Most of it's grant, so
Yep.
we're only spending 30
roughly.
Yeah.
out of tax. Is that coming out of the TIF, or is that coming out of TIF money, or is that coming out of the general fund?
That'll be coming out of the, well, actually, some of it, so the engineering money that we've spent has come out of TIF,
Okay,
because I had that included with the TIF.
with the TIF, right?
The paving, when we finally get to the paving piece of it, that'll come out of our budget for our street and roads
Okay.
budget, so that 30,000.
We can't use TIF money for that as a turning lane into our industrial park.
There's not enough TIF to cover that.
Oh, there isn't, okay, I thought we had more on our TIF account. Okay. I don't know what the answer's gonna be, but I think we're gonna have to catch up with some of these roads. We fell behind for about 8 years, but we didn't spend 500,000.
well, that's what we originally took that $2 million bond out for.
Right. How much
Then-
longer does that have to go with payments on the $2 million?
Well, that ended up being on Clinton Avenue and Cedar Brook.
And Cedar Brook, yeah, we had a couple of things happen.
Yes,
That
that took
killed
all
that.
that money
killed it,
that was
right,
supposed to
yeah.
go to
Killed
roads.
that money.
Right, right.
I think that's about 4 more years.
4 more years on that.
We're gonna retire next fiscal year, we're gonna retire the, I think it's a 2015 bond. That was a bond we took to buy equipment. So, this next coming fiscal year, I think it's like 130 some odd thousand payment, that will retire.
I just wanted to bring it up now so we can think about it before the public works director comes in here and we can have that kind of discussion with him. Is all I was worried about. I just don't know if we're doing enough miles every year. And I understand Cedar Brook did set us back along.
Well, one of the things that's gonna happen is we're gonna land up and keep falling back all the time. There's only so much money that we have. And
I'm
how
gonna
many
drive over
bonds
that
can
road,
we
I think, and see if that was as bad as the one I drove.
float before we won't be able to get any more bonds?
And we just bought 2 fire trucks, you know?
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough.
But we also have to listen to the residents that if their complaints are getting worse or they're bringing to our attention, severe damage caused to their vehicles and whatnot, I mean, at some point, we have to make the tough decision and say, hey, we need to address this a little more appropriately.
Some of the roads are pretty bad, and it's exasperated this time of the year. I understand that, but
I think what we need is a list of roads, bad, worse, and need immediate attention.
well, also maybe a list of roads and how long's it been since this one's been done. If there's roads that haven't been touched for 12 years, maybe they should move more to the top of the list, especially depending on the number of homes on it or the number of automobiles driving over it and stuff like that. I don't know if there's a way
During,
that we can do that.
during last year's budget season, actually Paul gave us
I think he did.
a list of all the roads and the schedule for
Yes.
those roads are being done. And I think that, do you think you can get Paul to send that to each one of us, the updated list?
Yep.
I'll bring it
And then we
to,
can get that, so at least we'll have that when we go, when people ask us, we'll have a list of, this is scheduled for here, this is scheduled for there. In the past council sessions, 500,000, we squeaked out that.
Yeah.
And that's been, that's been a tough discussion as the mill rates go up, and that's been one that has taken a hit, I think, over the years, is that capital for roads. And, when we're taking 800,000 out of surplus, you know what I
That's
mean?
what we-
And not replenishing some of that,
Yeah.
and then asking us to take more out for roads.
And we
We're
bonded
bonding
that.
those.
We
That's-
bonded that last one.
That's why we end up bonding, because, we can absorb that $200,000 payment, at least it gets some done, and I think,
Right.
right now, looking at the next couple of years too, it's gonna be hard to squeak $1 million into that road repair budget. And I think that bonding at this point, might be the only,
I think that's the only way we're gonna play catch-up at all.
I think
Like I
so.
said, the last bond that we just took out got eaten up by circumstances beyond our control.
Emergencies.
We couldn't, anticipate what was gonna happen to Cedar Brook and how much that was gonna cost us.
Yeah.
And we couldn't ignore it, we had to fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
and at least one of the good things about it is DOT did put some money in Cedar Brook.
I think-
What we can do is look if we can get some grants.
I don't know if they have grants for roads, do they?
Well, the turning lane project was a grant.
Grant.
Yeah, we're always looking for grants. In fact, when we do the road out here, hopefully we'll end up with a USDA grant. We're in the process right now of completing the application.
I know that I went to the governor's State of the State address a couple weeks ago, and riddled through her State of the State address was the condition of roads in the state of Maine. And I think I can't tell you for sure, but there's a bond right now that's being approved. I can't remember how many millions of dollars for roads and infrastructure. Every year there's a bond for roads and
100
infrastructure.
million.
So there's a lot of that, but that's usually for state roads or
Right.
other roads that aren't the secondary roads that are the town's responsibility.
Yeah. She wanted to take 110 million out of the money she has rather than bond it to put into roads. And I understand there's a kind of a push on that down.
So we'll just, I think,
The other question I have is, can Paul find out which roads are on the state aid system?
Yes, he knows.
He knows.
Yeah.
And if those need to, then we could probably see if we can get some of the MPR funds to do paving.
Yeah.
But that has to be for a certain length of time.
Right.
so you're gonna get us the information to us, at least so we can communicate with the public
Yep.
about which roads are next on the list, and then Jerry's concerned about what are state roads versus the interior roads that we take care of, that would be great.
Versus the town ways, that's 100% our responsibility.
Yep. Yeah, well, I'll have him.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing
We might not be
Give
able
us
to
some
do
homework.
anything, but at least we can tell them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you wait a year, and I know that list is semi-accurate because everything is sliding down. We say we're gonna do it, but in the end, makes it very difficult when you're facing mill rate increases like, and I don't think this year is gonna be any different from what I'm looking at, some of the issues. Any other, yeah, Joe?
Just one suggestion, and when you're talking to constituents about roads and the list, and I think it's a good conversation to have, because that's a common complaint out there. I think it's an opportune time to talk to the constituents about revenue sharing and how much that has cost the town, and this is probably the number one line item that's taking the biggest hit out of it. You've got the numbers, you know how many millions that's been over the, however many years that they've shorted us. Obviously it's coming out somewhere else.
We're never gonna catch up with the money we lost,
Well, I
obviously.
agree with that, but to make the constituents understand, this is why one of the reasons we're behind.
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah. Yeah, I've mentioned that a few times.
But it sounds like you're just making an excuse,
It's
and when
just
you're
like,
placing ball
it
joints, they
doesn't,
don't wanna hear
it
it.
doesn't really, and I know that that's a good thing, and we go into revenue sharing. Actually, revenue sharing for this fiscal year is going up to 3.7%. So
Where
I
is it
think
now,
the next 2
3.5?
years, this year,
Three.
three. So this year, and then hopefully next year it'll go up another certain percent. I don't think it's gonna go up to 5 in 2022.
Why not? That's what it always has been,
Yeah,
since
but,
1970.
That's a long 1.7. You would think that they would hopefully in the next 2-year fiscal budget, that in the spring of 2021 is when you get the 2-year budget, and hopefully they'll retain that 5% at that point in time. There is a chance. I mean, in her budget, also in her address, she said that property tax relief is a high priority for the state at this time. So I know there's a lot of money that's designated in this budget of $240 million surplus for this coming, that maybe some of that will get back to revenue sharing, or maybe it'll get back to the EPS formula where we get some added in the EPS formula. I know that those are two issues. The school funding is still at about 50%, not to 55%, that you really need to be for full funding of the schools. And so maybe at that point in time, the politicians in Augusta will address those two issues, revenue sharing again, and the school EPS formula for designating of school aid to the towns.
She's looking at, for the everyday operations of school, to bring that up to 52%, which is better than going backwards.
Yep, it is. Both things are heading in the right direction. So
we got a big hole to dig out of, because it was years of.
we can't regain the money we lost, that's for sure. Yep,
Now we have to dig out of that.
yep.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor?